Hey. I'm Kristen Johnson. I'm a medical doctor, third-year resident. Finishing that up this semester, and I teach the high schoolers.
What class do you teach?
Anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology.
All right, let's start with the first question. So what was your major in college, or what college did you go to first?
Oh, I graduated from Texas Women's University for undergraduate. My major, I had a double major and a double minor. I was, they didn't have biochem, so I was biology and chemistry major, and I was a pre-med and business minor.
Did you ever wanted to change your major?
So the answer is yes and no. No, because, you know, if you do something like this, you love the suffering, you know? I mean, it's just it comes with the territory, but I wanted to change my major when it got really difficult. I would look at the hospitality majors and the dance majors and the art majors, and I was like, I could be a basket weaver some days. And then I would look at them enough and I'd be like, it's not for me.
What made you choose these two majors specifically?
Oh, I knew I was going to be a doctor.
Ever since when?
Like age 3.
So you've always wanted to do pre-med medical school. What is your take on students aspiring for medical school with non-biology majors? Like myself, I am majoring in human development and family sciences, or even public health.
Now that they are coming up with these broader majors, I'm embracing that. That's great, because biology and chemistry are so general and large that you take classes that you don't really want. For instance, so I was biochem, I had to take things like ecology, botany, things I could really, you know, not my aspect of biology that I wanted to learn about, but you had to grit through it. So with them having more specific majors that are in the science field, I embrace that, because you might be able to access the information that you want a little quicker than just being so general in the major.
So you mentioned like some of the classes that you had to take for your biology major. What was your favorite biology class?
Absolutely, anatomy and physiology.
Oh wow!
Loved
Why?
it. Why? It's the language of the body, medicine. It was what I wanted, right? It gives you more access to your other classes that feed off of that class that before you took it you didn't know that they were pulling from, but it's the background information that you need. It was challenging. I happen to love a challenge, even though some days you hate it. But it was one of those classes that pushed you to grow. So
you're an MD. What is one biology concept that you use in your profession every day? Like, so what we're learning is genetics, cell cycle, like something in Gen Chem. What do you use?
Okay, so I guess a lot in cellular respiration aspect and digestive system. It's a system that feeds every other thing and helps break down for chemical use. And so when you find the abuse against it in the medicine, then you have to address that and how it intercedes and with the other systems.
How has biology assisted you in your profession as a general physician, especially as a teacher? You said you were an anatomy teacher.
So we have integration with biology. Actually, anatomy and physiology and pathophysiology is a branch off of biology. It is dealing with the human aspect and the disease and how it intertwines with all of those basic concepts that you learned back in biology. So it's very much integrated in our day-to-day, and when we have to address it, I always have to say, like, and personally in teaching, I'll be like, remember when back in biology we learned blah blah blah. And as far as like with patients every day and trying to, and we just talked about this, educating patients, you know, I have about 3 minutes with them to really try to pull in their information if they're concerned patients and wanting to know about their health and where to go from here with the biology and the anatomy and how this reflects on them for their own personal health.
So now I want to ask you about your job as a general physician. Can you describe an average work day, like what you do at the hospital?
Okay, so I currently work Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. I don't know that that's typical work day, but it's my typical after I finish teaching. So that being said, some of the people that come in, we get to see a lot. If they come in with like heart attack issues or signs of showing stroke or heart attack, we have an EMS van that will take them over and admit them with direct admissions into the hospital. But we, I don't know, I get to see the whole gamut. It depends what walks in. Lately, this week, because it's Thanksgiving, there was a lot of sutures. So I had to do a lot of stitches for cuts on hands. You know, people in the kitchen, not as cautious with the knife and, you know, things going through the hands and things like that. So there was a lot of that this week. With the change in weather, the hot, the cold, brings in all the respiratory issues. Flu season has just started. You see a lot of that. It depends what walks in, you know?
So, you interact with a lot of patients. So when you educate them on what they have or like what disease or illnesses they have, how do you use biology in that and just to like make it easy for them to understand?
Okay, so I kind of explained before this got started that I'm always being like reprimanded for this, that I spend too much time with the patient, because I personally have a belief that if you educate the patient, if they're concerned, then you can help heal through knowledge. If they know what the cause is and their actions that got them there, and we can then start to repair and fix that, then they can progress from there and possibly be my patient on another level.
What is a piece of advice that you can give to students pursuing a career as a general physician or any doctors?
Look, it is challenging, it is rough, it is emotional, it is blood, sweat, and tears. If it's for you, just put your head down and keep going. You know, the plan may change on how to get there, but the goal stays the same. And if you can have access, you know, we were also talking about this, physicians. So back in the day, because I'm like old now, I'm real old. You know, doctor was the dream. I tell the kids all the time, the dream is relative. It depends who's dreaming. and what you want out of life. Because with the dream comes sacrifices. And there are a lot that cascade if this is what you want to do. So nobody ever, when I was in high school, my first year of college, sat me down and told me the access that other medical professionals could have and pretty much gain the same access as a physician if you just knew one, you know? So if medicine is what you want to do, there's many aspects. Just find a way. There's an avenue. It doesn't always have to be with the MD tag behind it. All right.
So you majored in biology and chemistry. If you were not to do medical school, what would your alternate be?
Okay, so you can go back and get more school, because really in medicine you have to have a license in order to access a lot of the fields, you know. If I had to do it again, to sacrifice 12 to 15 years of your life for this is I mean, you caught me on my day after work, so it's a lot to ask from somebody to give up and just focus on the goal. My first year of residency, there was a nurse practitioner that started the same day as me, and he was given more access than me. And I was shocked because residency you have to complete in order to fulfill the license requirements. And then even after that, if you want to specialize, then you go back for fellowship. And you have to complete the requirements for that. And if you decide that that's not for you, you shall have some more finances and time. And what I was noticing with the nurse practitioner is on day one, when he started and was licensed, he was learning on the job his trade. And he is now no longer with us because he decided that the urgent care was not for him, but he wanted more access to it, and he's in emergent care right across the street. So he decided to switch, and then he learned on the job there, yet still making a full salary, which I'm getting partial pay. So it's a little bit more than teaching. I mean, nothing, people can raise people off of this. It's just you got bills. So it goes a lot to that. I guess if I had to do it again, I would consider going the nursing route, because in 6 years you're able to have more access medically and more training medically than 6 years progressing towards becoming a physician. In 6 years you're only through your undergrad if you did it in 4, and 2 years of medical school, which gets you nowhere but a shadow. So, there you go.
What made you choose teaching?
Well, I always said, even young, I would never be a teacher. Ever be a teacher. And I found that, every time I say never, and I'm not going to, and this is what's going to happen, God makes a fool out of me. And he, so I got out of college with my biochem degree and everything, and applied to medical school the year before, and didn't make it in. And the suggestion was that they wanted work experience. So I had to figure out what to do with my life, because my parents were like, yeah, we're done funding this experience, this has been lovely, you're educated, but we're about to cut you off, you need a job. And one of my good friend's mothers was a principal at an elementary school. God bless her heart. And there was a teacher that had a medical emergency and was out for the rest of the year. So she asked me to sub for the pre-Kers. Pre-K is not really my speed. They're a bit of an emotional mess, like I have just been, but very animated, lovely. But I really wanted to, if I was going to teach somebody stuff, not just time and how to write your name and, basic science 101, solid liquid gas, food chains with, I know an old lady swallowed a fly, how to count, multiplication, and then, there were kindergarten teachers down the hall who were upset that I was teaching them that much. They said I was covering their material. And I just decided, if I'm gonna teach and we're gonna do this, and say goodbye to the pre-Kers. And then I got into high school science, and it made my parents very nervous, because they're like, we spent all this money and you are teaching. And I was like, it's not bad, it's not that bad. And I was like, I get to show them what we've learned in college and get them prepared for this. That being said, I know I've said I was going to quit every other year. It's done. It just so happened every time I thought I was leaving, I was made a fool of, and I needed a job. So when I finally went back to medical school, I went in California my first year. I did not love it. I loved school. I did not love California. Okay, so I decided I was reapply in Texas, get back closer to home. And when I was interviewing, sitting in the interview, thought I nailed it. And at the end, I asked, "Do you have any questions for me?" And when you apply to medical school, you also have to send regrets out. Like, I regret to let you know that I'm not accepting this position, so they can offer it to other people. And the school that I was interviewing with pulled out my regret letter, and I was denied the first time. Then, I was like, a couple years later, I was like, okay, say goodbye to teaching again. And interview happened again. I was like, oh, it went really well. And then I got put on hold. And I waited until the date that they put me on hold, and they gave me a partial schedule because I had already had a year under. And so I went and I sat with the registrar, and I was like, excuse me, I got a part of a schedule. I'm supposed to be full-time. I just let my job know I'm not coming back. I prepared myself for this to be a full student. And the lady at the counter had to adjust me. And what she said, ma'am, are you going to be a doctor? And I was like, yes, ma'am. She said, then you will work the schedule, because if you will not, there's somebody else willing to take your space. Okay, so the question was, do I see teaching as a long-term thing? It's kind of turned into a long-term thing without being the plan, the initial plan. In a way, it's been a blessing. When I was given anatomy and physiology, it was when I went back for year 2 for medical school, so it allowed me to review and rehearse everything, because, if you don't access the information like that every day, you do tend to get a little rusty and dusty on the edges. And so it was very much, a chance to get back and be in the groove of the information. I have learned to say what I'm never not going to do again. I had a professor in California, actually, that she was a practicing neurologist, and she was a college professor. And the way business, like I said, as usual, has turned out not to be, teaching could be a backup for, like, in the university spectrum or at a medical school, teaching the content and still being able to influence and access people, but not being a full-time position. I like it,